trash that report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a UN body, as something you couldn't believe. And you're probably thinking you're not a global warming scientist. Then I say, well, no, nor are many politicians or lawyers for that matter. So I thought I'd better talk to one of the greatest in the world, Richard Lindzen. He was the Alfred P. Sloan Professor of Meteorology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology until his retirement. He was even a lead author of a chapter of an early report of this same UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And he joins me now. Professor Lindzen, always great to catch up with you. The UN Secretary General has said this report shows humanity is on thin ice and faces a time bomb. He doesn't mind mixing his metaphors. How dangerous is global warming really?
Well, I don't think it's particularly dangerous. And the strange thing, and this is what I find very peculiar about the UN's IPCC, there's only one section of it dealing with science, and that's the Working Group 1 report. And although it is biased, I won't deny that, it never comes out with predictions of catastrophe.
But sticking on the science part of it, this latest one says humans are responsible for almost all the 1.1 degrees of warming in the past 110 years. Can we just start with that very basic presumption? Is that bit at least correct?
No. No, obviously it's not. And the IPCC says it's not. They always say from about 1960 to the present, they think man is responsible for most of the change. So that might be we're responsible for the last quarter, 4/10 of a degree. You know, sort of the kind of extreme temperature change that you might encounter between breakfast and halfway to lunch in a very benign climate.
But insofar as there has been a warming, and there has been a warming, it seems, from the satellite data, is it actually dangerous? I've always been stunned by what warming we've had does not seem to produce all the catastrophic consequences that have been warned about. Now, this report says, well, people are dying in heat waves and they face food insecurity. And here, indeed, we get people saying, well, look at our floods and fires.
Yeah, well, none of this suggests anything unusual in a historical record. I mean, we've always had fires, floods, droughts. The Bible speaks of them. So, you know, every time you get anything, I mean, here in Boston, the threat of snow is suggesting that there's something terrible due to climate. When it doesn't occur because something terrible is happening to climate. It gets to be a bit ludicrous. At some point, people, I think, begin to realize this has nothing to do with climate.
Well, I've picked up, here's this particular report is saying, more people, you know, you've got people dying in heat waves. Well, that's been going on for millennia. But it doesn't mention that in a warming world, fewer people die of cold, and cold is a bigger killer than heat. Do you find that fundamentally dishonest?
Of course it is. As I say, this is exploiting people's ignorance to promote fear and use it as a lever for God knows what they want to do.
But why do so many scientists say global warming is a huge threat?
A large number of scientists saying, yes, indeed, it's warming. And they might even add it perhaps as a matter of concern. Relatively few that I know of who even support the narrative would ever say that this is involving an existential threat.
Professor Lindzen, we are now facing calls from the UN and from our Greens Party and indeed parts of our ruling Labor Party. We face calls to kill our coal industry, stop using coal, gas and oil, to stop this terrible, terrible warming. What do you think we should do about global warming?
Nothing. You know, if you wanted to do something in terms of policy, I mean, remember, I think there is pretty universal agreement that if the whole Anglosphere and the European Union were to shut down completely, bury all industrial activity and people so that we don't generate CO2, that its impact on climate would be negligible. Because, you know, the rest of the world is going to continue and they're now dominating emissions. So no matter what you believe about climate, our actions will do nothing about climate. If you truly believed that it was an existential threat, then the only thing you could do is build up your resilience. And building up your resilience means making more, having people wealthier. Because we see throughout the whole world, if you are a poor country, if you're not resilient, natural disasters cause immense damage, pain, suffering, and so on. In the developed world, similar disasters cause much less damage. So your aim would be resilience. Instead, we're choosing to make ourselves less resilient. And that makes no sense at all, no matter what you believe. In point of fact, I don't think there's any threat on the horizon, and the best thing to do is to make society wealthier.
Richard Lindzen, you've been saying this a long time, and if we all live long enough, I think you'll be proved absolutely correct. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you.